I'm Erin Lucy, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm gonna be doing my May reads video wrap up. I'm super excited. Read a lot of great books this month. Yeah, it was a really good reading month. So, although it did start off on a not super awesome note, I read The Spanish Love Deception via ebook at the beginning of the month while I was in Honduras, and honestly I was super disappointed by this one. I know it's really popular and I honestly don't really understand why. So the premise, it's like enemies to lovers. It's about this girl Elena who is working her office life, and her sister's getting married in Spain and she needs a date to the wedding. And this guy, just right in the beginning, this guy who she's has her work enemy volunteers to be her date because he overhears her talking about it, and she's like, oh my god, no, I would never go with him. Oh, his name is Aaron. And she's like, no way, I would never go with him. And then things start to happen. I don't want to say too much, but I felt like you start to learn about their hatred a little bit more. Hopefully this is not too spoilery, but it just felt super unfounded to me. Same with this book, and then the next one I'm going to talk about. I thought that I like enemies to lovers, but I realized only when it's done in a certain way. I just felt in both of these cases, the hatred, there was just so much hatred over what kind of felt like nothing. I totally get being stubborn and standing up for yourself, but this was I don't know, kind of ridiculous. She's mad partly because of some conversations she overhears, but she doesn't hear the whole thing, and it's just this huge, and often there's a lot of misunderstanding in romances, but I just really thought it was not good. I thought it was also not well written, and I feel kind of bad saying that, but it was one of my least favorite books that I've read this year, maybe which is why it surprises me that it's so popular. I don't know, just I thought The Love Hypothesis was way better, but yeah, did not vibe with it. And even after the enemies to lovers, half the book she spends talking about how hot he is, to a point that's just we get it, we got it the first 8 times, but yeah, so it did not start off on a super great note. But yeah, I don't know. Honestly, all 3 romances that I read this month, I was not a huge fan of. So it feels maybe super hit or miss for me lately, but that was The Spanish Love Deception. The next one was Under One Roof by Ali Hazelwood. So after The Love Hypothesis, I was super psyched to read anything that Ali Hazelwood puts out, but I was super disappointed in this one too. And it is a novella, so I'm thinking that part of it is just that there wasn't really enough time for a lot of character development. But it's about this girl Mara. She's in STEM working for I think the EPA, and she ends up in a weird situation where she's rooming with this guy that she doesn't like, Liam. Of course, it's another enemies to lovers. She says that right off the bat. There's this scene, and then they jump backwards in time and explain their relationship. But it was a similar thing where she wanted to kill him. She would think about that or talk about that all the time, and it just seemed so extreme. The hatred seemed super unrealistically extreme for the things, I don't know, it wasn't even in a fantasy story where they've done something, or you think they've done something horrible, killed someone, or I don't know, it was silly little household things, and I felt they were totally blown out of proportion in such a ridiculous way that it just felt, I don't know, the whole thing fell really flat for me. So that was another one. I really like the STEM aspects and kind of more academic. I definitely find that super relatable. So I will continue to read Ali Hazelwood, but just did not really enjoy this one. Again, I think it's partially because of it just being short and there not being very much time to I don't know, develop anything else aside from just how much they hated each other. yeah, so that was that was the next one. Okay, the next one is The Housekeeper and the Professor by Yoko Ogawa. It's been on my TBRs and on my TBR for this whole year, and finally got to it. It's super short, but I really enjoyed it, and I ended up listening to part of it on audiobook, but I really liked it, both the audiobook and reading it in print. It is about this housekeeper, and she's hired to be the housekeeper and caretaker for this mathematician who has like severe short-term memory loss, so he like forgets everything that happens within 80 minutes. But he remembers things that happened like before the accident that caused it. But any like short-term stuff he can't remember, and he'll forget, and he has all these sticky notes to like remind him of different things. And this is all about like his relationship with this new housekeeper that comes and her son, who the mathematician calls Root. It's very sweet. I really loved it. I get why it's definitely like a pretty hyped book. I think some people even read this in school. My friend really recommended it. I think it's definitely worth reading. It's really short. I can see why also like it inspires people, especially in regard to math. The only like qualm I had with it, and why like I couldn't say it's like a super favorite, is that there was a lot of baseball talk, and I don't know, it's just not really my thing. And I get like why it was there, because it was like a key point in the relationship between the professor and the son, the housekeeper's son, and like that was just something they bonded a lot over, and it added like another like mathematical element to some of the aspects of it. So I get why it was there, but it was a lot for me. So that was the only thing I didn't like, but I still think it's super worth reading. Again, really short, very sweet and heartwarming book. So yeah, Housekeeper and the Professor. Next we have On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous, which was by far my favorite I read throughout the whole month. I know it took me quite a while to read this book, but it's incredible. It's Ocean Vuong. I cannot believe I was missing out on his writing for so long. It's incredible. I mean, it's brilliantly written. I love the writing style. I guess like a quick synopsis. This boy who is born in Saigon, Vietnam, and he moves to the US with his mom, his grandma, I think, and it's all about their relationships, like his upbringing, some like severe struggles he has as an immigrant, in coming out and in surviving in like a very harsh world. It's also about him kind of like dealing with and thinking about the things that his mom and his grandmother went through in Vietnam, mostly connected to the Vietnam War. And his writing is just so beautiful. I mean, I don't think I've ever read a book with more like beautiful writing, if that makes sense. I wanted to share some, but I also don't want to like ruin any of the things. Okay, well, this is towards the beginning. Monarchs that survived the migration pass this message down to their children. The memory of family members lost from the initial winter was woven into their genes. When does war end? When can I say your name and have it mean only your name and not what you left behind? Anyway, just like a small little bit. There's some like favorite passages in the end, but I didn't want to like spoil anything for anybody, because I feel like everyone should read this book. Definitely is a new favorite for sure. So, On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous. I read this one also in Honduras. So good. Where's that? Oh, this one was like my nonfiction read of the month, and I'm not going to talk a whole lot about it because I have a whole vlog on it coming up in the next few weeks. But Under a White Sky by Elizabeth Kolbert, who wrote one of my favorite nonfiction books, The Sixth Extinction. And both of them like kind of talk about different human caused ecological issues. I will say my favorite, I definitely still prefer The Sixth Extinction, but this one was really interesting, and I definitely learned a lot that I didn't know before. But it focuses on, it has like kind of 3 main focuses, and I think maybe I just found the the ecological things like and issues that she talked about in the Sixth Extinction to be a little more interesting. But these are like super relevant and really important things to talk about. Again, I'm being kind of vague with it, but I'm going to talk about it a lot in my upcoming vlog. So yeah, that's Under a White Sky, The Nature of the Future. The next book is Project Hail Mary, another one like On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous that I've been trying to read for a while. I did have one particular friend who was like begging me to read this one, so I definitely prioritized it, and I thought it was great. It's a great book. I'm definitely a fan of Andy Weir, and I think this was my favorite of his by far. So this one's really hard for me to summarize without giving anything away, because for me, like, everything that happened was super surprising and unexpected, and I love that about it. But essentially this guy wakes up in this room after a coma and has no idea where he is, what's going on, and you're kind of like learning things with him. As like part of it is flashbacks to his life before on Earth, and then figuring out like why he's there and what's going on, because he wakes up in this spaceship. And it's really good. It's sci-fi. I also feel like from what I've seen in the public about this one is that it is very accessible. It's not like super sci-fi I mean, it is, but I think it's amazing. I would definitely recommend it. I will say a few things. It's very science heavy, which I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed that aspect of it, but I'm actually kind of surprised that it's been so popular in the public, because I feel like it's very like physicsy. But I also thought that was really cool, and that's awesome if everyone's super into that. So, and then there was one other aspect which I'm not going to say anything about, but like something that surprised me so much, did not expect at all in this book. Not going to say exactly what it is because I love that it was a surprise. But yeah, I guess overall just like a lot of really interesting, surprising things. But yeah, it's this guy, he's figuring out why he's there and his attempt to save Earth. So that's like as big a summary as I can get, with also, you know, I don't know, trying to give you an idea of what it's about, but not give anything away. So yeah, Project Hail Mary. Next, I read a new release from this month, which was Book of Night by Holly Black. This was also on my TBR for this year, and I was pretty disappointed in this one as well. It's Holly Black's like first adult fantasy, and it's about this woman, Charlie Hall, and she, I guess she's very used to like doing kind of slightly devious things to help her and her sister survive in this world. The fantasy element, so basically they live in this world where certain people can use magic through their shadows. Like the whole magic system is tied to like your shadow, and it's I think it's kind of like people either have it or they don't, but then like some people acquire it. It's kind of, it was just, I guess that was part of it to me, is I was kind of confused for a lot of it, and I didn't feel like it was all very clear, which there's gonna be more. So like I feel like there has to be more of these books, which I didn't realize going into it. I thought this was standalone, and so I have a hard time judging it when I don't know, it hasn't completely been fleshed out. But I think that wasn't even the biggest problem I had. The biggest problem I had with this was that I just like was not attached to any of the characters or like the relationship, because there is a romance. I didn't even understand a lot of the romance. There was just like not a lot of backstory for anything. The main character, Charlie, like I don't know, she does talk a lot about her backstory, but for some reason I just like wasn't really very invested, and so I didn't really care a lot about stuff that happened to them. So it was a unique way of talking about magic, which was cool. That was like the one thing, even though like magic system was kind of confusing, I did think that the whole shadow thing was kind of refreshing and a different sort of magic system. But wasn't my favorite. I'm not really sure, like from the first one, to me it's not super worth reading, but I don't know. If you like magic And if you're interested in like this whole shadow thing, again, that was pretty cool. So yeah, that was Book of Night. The next book is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I listened to this one on audiobook and I thought it was great. I mean, Taylor Jenkins Reid has yet to disappoint. This one has been super hyped up and I think it mostly lives up to the hype. I will say, like, for me, it didn't completely blow me away. Like, it wasn't like a new favorite, but I do think it's absolutely like worth reading, and like I understand why the hype is there for this one. Somehow Taylor Jenkins Reid writes these books that, like, from the synopsis, I would not be super interested in, like Daisy Jones and the Six, Malibu Rising, and this one. Like, it's not something that super calls out to me, but I've loved them all. Like, I thought they were really well written and interesting, and I was like very invested. Same with this one. It's about Evelyn Hugo, who's this like big movie star who's retired at this point, and then has this journalist come in and interview her for her biography. And so you're learning about her husbands and how the press saw her and how she actually felt. And it's fantastic. I thought it was really well done. There were a couple pretty surprising elements, and there's like a slight mystery to it, which was really fun too. So I highly recommend it. I waited on hold for this one for so long from the library, and it was totally worth it. So definitely recommend it. I will say I still think probably Daisy Jones and the Six is my favorite, but I'm wondering also maybe because I read that one first. But I will say I think I did definitely like this one better than Malibu Rising. So yeah, that was The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So many books this month. Next is Riot. So I'm editing this video and realized that the first part that I filmed just like cut out when I was talking about Riot Baby by Tochi Onyebuchi, and I'm really sad, but a quick summary is that it addresses kind of like racism, police brutality, and white privilege through this lens of like these riots that are happening, but also like it has this element of like dystopian sci-fi-y / fantasy, like maybe magical realism. I'm honestly not sure what the genre here would be, but I thought it was incredible. I thought it was just like really well written and addressed the issues well. Yeah, so it's about Ella and her brother Kev and them facing kind of the world together and on their own, and Ella in particular has this like power, this like thing, which is like kind of a curse and a gift in many ways. So yeah, it was a really good book, and I'm bummed that my original explanation didn't get actually recorded, but I highly recommend it. It's really short and it was a really good read. So yeah. So the next one I read was, what's it called? I Guess I Live Here Now by Claire On, and this one is a YA like rom-com about Melody, who lives in New York City with her mom, but her entire family is from South Korea, and she and her mom live apart from her father. They did that so she could be educated in the US, and her mom decides to like move them back to Korea in Melody's junior year of high school. And of course she's like really upset by this and doesn't understand why they're moving or anything. So they move. It's in part to be back with like her father, but she feels like there's like other secrets that her mom is keeping from her. And so they move to Seoul, and this whole book is about her journey in Seoul, finding friendships, connecting with her family. There's also like a romance element. So very much about like the relationships, and like the relationship with her friend in New York, and like they kind of start to grow apart. So yeah, just generally friendships, family, also like her wanting to pursue a career that's not really generally accepted by her family. And I thought that it was okay. I feel like I'm guessing this is mostly on me, that I just kind of am maybe not feeling the whole like high school thing and didn't really expect this one to be about high schoolers. Like I should have known, but I basically put this one, like I recommended it to the library to get. I'm not sure where I heard of it, but I did that. And then once it does that, like you automatically get on the wait list or like get it first if they do buy it. So I got it and I was like, oh, okay, like I'll read it. I don't remember what it's about, but I did, and I just like wasn't really prepared for this like high school romance thing, and I wasn't really feeling it. It just felt like super like whiny, and I guess like it's very normal at that age, a lot of the things that she was thinking and feeling and saying, but it felt very childish. I don't know, like her frustrations with her parents, like she was so angry about them having secrets and how like she always felt like her mom and her never had secrets, but like in parts, like I don't know, like our parents all had lives before us. So I do feel like sometimes like not necessarily like purposely a secret, you just like have a life before, and I don't know. I do feel like some of it was probably justified, but it just felt like she was a little bit self-centered and I don't know, kind of whiny about things. But I'm saying but a lot to this one because I do think it's more just like I realized I was super not in like a YA mood at the time, and that definitely influenced how I felt about this book because yeah, just didn't love it. Didn't really like okay, so the things that I did really love about it, characters were really fun, and the food aspect and culture and soul was amazing. Made me just want to like eat food. So that was really cool. I really liked that. But yeah, the relationships, like just like how this main character felt about everything, I don't know, there was like a lot of like privilege and a lot of, I don't know, just didn't love. So yeah, that was a nice one. Another not so great. But the last one is Anxious People by Fredrik Backman. My friends have been begging me to read this one, and especially after A Man Called Uva, which I liked, and I liked this one too. I will say this one's also really hard to summarize, but because I don't know, essentially it starts off with this bank robbery followed by a hostage situation, and then the police officers are kind of struggling to figure out what happens. It's definitely a mystery aspect, but it's also like mostly I think about the characters involved and like what it means to be human and have relationships with others and kind of like what is life. And I thought it was super well done. And also Fredrik Backman does a great job about like with unlikable characters, because I usually don't like unlikable characters or books that are mostly unlikable characters, but I find that in his books I really like them, or like because I think he does a really good job of highlighting like why those characters are that way, or like I don't know, their struggles. So that was fantastic. It was definitely kind of slow for me in the beginning, but I think it was like also very like witty, and the characters are kind of like funny or ridiculous, but in a very entertaining way. And then as the book goes on, like they slowly become more and more like human, and their struggles become more prevalent, like why they are where they are. So that's what I'll say about it. Highly recommend. I will probably read Beartown now as well because I really like his writing. So yeah, that was everything I read the month of May. It was a lot, I think like 11 books for me. I felt like a really good reading month, just like really excited to read and felt good about everything. So yeah, I would love to hear some great books you read or also not so great. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching.